Please take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
So we eventually come up to this 2nd Al-Medina tank battalion, and it turns out it wasn't the 2nd Al-Medina tank battalion, which had, I think it was 200 something T-72s. We didn't run into that. What we ended up running into was the 51st Mechanized Division, which were BMPs, MTLBs, and these are just, relatively soft-skinned targets. Like I was saying, the MTLBs have a 7.62 millimeter machine gun in their turret, and that's really the only thing they have. So as we push up, I hear contact front from the tanks, and they kind of move off the road. And so now I can kind of see what's going on in front of us. My section leader, I can't remember exactly what his position was in front of me. I believe he also moved off to the right somewhere. And I could see this MTLB sitting a little ways up the road, and you just see these flashes, the smoke and these flashes coming out of the turret. So, there's people in there shooting at you. And I couldn't help but laugh and almost feel sorry for the guy, because, I mean, a 7.62 millimeter machine gun is not going to penetrate the armor on an AAV, let alone a tank. I don't recall any of the infantry dismounting at that time, so there was really no danger unless they get a lucky shot in, to the turret or the driver's station or TC or whatever. And all of a sudden, I watched the M1s in front of me. The first one just, boom, fires around, and I watched the tank rock back with the recoil. I watched the dust just explode off of this tank, the M1, and just swallows this tank in dust and everything. And for a split second, you can see it's like a reddish orange round just screaming toward this target. And all of a sudden it hit the MTLB, and that MTLB just, boom, everything just blew open on it. All the hatches blew open. There's a mushroom cloud looking, fireball that came out off the top. But then all the engine fluid dumping out the hole in the side, and everything just burning and melting was just like, wow. That was the first time we had first time I could see that we engaged something, knowing that there was somebody in it, and then we just took it out. And so in the meantime, the other M1s in front of us were over there lighting up targets. The AAVs, amphibious assault vehicles, were lighting up the targets that they could see.
So were you engaging enemies at this point?
My turret was. So my crew chief was engaging. I was in the driver's station, so I had an M16. I really couldn't do anything anyway. So I was pretty much sitting there with the front row view of watching these targets just get absolutely decimated. And it was just the coolest thing ever. It was just like watching these tanks just lighting up these targets so quickly. These tanks are just so quick on acquiring targets and just blowing up these vehicles that are kind of in front of us. And we're not as quick because we don't have a stabilized turret. Nothing's computer controlled. Everything's just manual. So unless you're really good and really well rehearsed in the turret, it's not always easy to get those first round hits. Most people start firing, and then they might land short or land, somewhere off the target, and then you have to try and adjust fire onto it. But yeah, watching these vehicles just popping left and right was really an eye-opening experience. And I didn't feel fear. It was really just adrenaline and just like, oh my God, this is like the coolest movie I've ever seen. None of us really were scared at any of that. I mean, we are engaging targets. People are shooting at us. There is a chance you could die, but none of us were scared. So I watched them popping targets, and I watched this one vehicle kind of break away from the rest of the 51st. and they start running off into the distance up toward this hill. And it was kind of like a berm kind of thing. And they're trying to run and get out of the line of sight. And he got a decent distance away. And then one of the tanks just boom, fires again. You watch that round streak across the desert, and hit that MTLB. And this thing that was just, pedal to the metal, just hauling, out of there, just suddenly comes to a stop, and everything just blows open again, all this fire going everywhere. That engagement was pretty quick.